News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, apparently behind the glass.
Exactly. And Allan, if you noticed, I got some critique this week. I'm going to start saying the name of my business slower because a friend of ours, Donna, said, I've been listening this whole time and I still don't know what the name of your business is because I guess I talk too fast. I'm from Chicago.
You're a little bit from the north, Joe.
Yeah. Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning. I should probably just drop the wood turning. Nobody ever really hires me for that, honestly. So
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, just a little aside there. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And if you're real eager, you can go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the must-have item of the week, which I've already posted, Allan.
Indeed.
So I'm sitting here looking at our lineup, and it's always kind of a fun little game here, Allan. Which I'm looking at all the show notes and which all of the ones we're not even going to get to because we never have time.
We have 3 weeks worth of notes sitting there.
Yeah, but one thing that's unavoidable, Allan, we have had so much rain this year, and I have to believe I would like to hope that there's some benefits. I don't know, maybe there's not, but it's better, I know we don't want to have a drought, but there's obviously a lot of issues that the rain causes. So I feel like it behooves us to discuss that. Later in the show, our confession hotline, I'm actually going to weigh in myself, and I'm going to confess something on the air as an early homeowner that I did that I guarantee other people may have done, maybe not, and maybe it'll be a cleansing experience for me.
Okay.
But if you want to get in on the confession hotline, too, you can always give us a call at 901-683-0989 or send us a text. Allan, it looks like, we have a great must-have item of the week. Critter Wars came home to a friend of yours, and there's lots of other juicy stuff that I'm not even going to bother.
Don't even tease.
Let's just dive in.
Yep.
So it's all coming at you today on Tool Talk Radio. But before we get to any of that,
and now Tool Talk Radio's weekly salute.
Sometimes cutting things out is important. If you want to keep your property looking nice and also getting a little exercise, you should make a habit of cutting your lawn at least once a week. Is that right, Allan? Probably once a week. If you've been a lifelong fan of a certain National League baseball team in northern Chicago and you feel betrayed by the general manager and certain elite former players of the team, you may begin cutting down on the amount of money you spend supporting that team. I have no idea what that means.
You need to cut down on your references today.
Passive-aggressive.
Vague posting, yeah.
Max, the producer, was disheartened after his fitness coach advised him that if he wanted to remain in peak physical condition, he would have to begin cutting out his favorite protein appetizer, deep-fried honey-glazed eel intestines.
What can I say? It's my one vice.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a vice, Allan. And, of course, on one noteworthy occasion, when Allan Gilbreth was hired to direct the local amateur theater's production of The Little Shop of Horrors, he decided, in the interest of cutting costs, to forego the expensive process of constructing a giant puppet of the man-eating plant Audrey 2, and instead to simply use the 10-foot-tall Venus flytrap, which he had growing in his backyard, whom he had trained since it was a sapling, and who he had nicknamed the Terminator, to play the role of the carnivorous plant. Unfortunately, however, the Terminator, who had been raised listening only to classical music, had evolved into something of a music snob, and so, on opening night, when the moment came for him to perform the big show-stopping number, Mean Green Mother from Outer Space, the Terminator folded his limbs defiantly and refused to utter a sound, thus ruining the entire momentum of the play and Allan's directorial career in one fell swoop. Allan, when you meddle with nature, this is the kind of results you get, buddy.
He's still sulking in a corner. It's just terrible.
And it happens. Yes, only to Allan Gilbreth. Yes, judicious cutting often initiates a dramatic change, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. And, of course, throughout our homes, there are any number of items that require careful cutting, and that is when we turn to the remarkable and versatile tool we celebrate today. My friends, we give you scissors. Allan, the biggest challenge with these salutes these days is transitioning from your story to what we're actually saluting. It's a real struggle sometimes, but you live a dynamic life, and we're cataloging it here on Tool Talk Radio. Scissors, Allan. The reason I'm mentioning scissors, I mean, of course, everybody who has not used scissors. There's even child-friendly scissors that you use when you're 3 years old.
Right.
But it's also it spawned a lot of tools. But the history of scissors is fascinating. You talk about the Wayback Machine, Allan. I thought it'd be fun to unpack that a little bit.
Well, let's start. My mind immediately went to watches, and then I'm going back to scissors. There are certain things that we just take for absolute granted.
Sure.
Like a watch. Not so much. Most people don't even wear a watch anymore.
No, you got it on your phone.
But for a while, watches were $9, and there was a time where watches were thousands of dollars because they were so difficult to make.
Sure.
Scissors, shears, knives. There was an entire industry for, I'm going to have to say, thousands of years where people came by selling these items and sharpening them.
Well, I was about to say, because...
And we keep going back, because you get to the Egyptians, early Chinese society, you get, as far back as we can go, you're going to find something that's a pair of scissors.
Yeah, one of them, because it is interesting to do a Google search on this, and really, I couldn't find any universal, aside from the Egyptians going back to about 1500 BC, that was about the farthest back I could see, but you've mentioned they've used piranha jaws and all sorts of things.
So, we have actually got archaeological, findings that of basically, if you were really good with a couple of pieces of really sharp obsidian, they made great scissors. They also made a great way to skin an animal.
That's sharp.
Obsidian is where we got the words razor sharp, because that's what we were trying to get a razor as sharp as. And I have seen numerous shows on the Amazon where tribes that don't have access to a lot of metal actually use the jaws of piranhas as little snippers.
Did they keep? Because folks, if you're picturing scissors, for a while they didn't really look like what we see
modern,
today.
Right.
They're kind of like almost a U shape. It's like a bent piece of metal that it curves, and then it's got a little springiness to it, so it automatically opens.
Bite. Yeah.
And you just sort of squeeze it, which I have to imagine was quite a workout. And
we had really good hands.
Yeah,
really good hands.
So and it was probably a real balancing act, getting the metal thin enough where it could bend, and then keeping it thick enough where it doesn't snap. So it was
being able to get an edge on it.
Yeah, and then keeping the edge on it. So I would have to imagine that the old scissors were a little trickier to sharpen and everything, because you can't just open them wide and then I don't know. I bet if you had really strong forearms, if you were using old-fashioned
that's where
scissors.
you got the bend the horseshoe thing.
But I guess it's everybody. The Romans were using it in 100 AD. I believe there's even a reference in the Bible somewhere that it alludes to shears that are more or less scissors or something. I have to believe
there's more than one.
But if you want to get modern, apparently, so Robert Hinckliffe of Sheffield, England, they said he is acknowledges the father of the modern scissors. That's when I guess he put the little holes, right? Put your thumb and everything, and began mass producing them. So, and a lot of people give Da Vinci credit for the scissors, but apparently, I don't know, he was just riding the wave. Everybody else was using scissors. So,
well, it wasn't that he was using scissors so much as Da Vinci came up with diagrams and drawings of different kinds of scissors for different purposes.
Funny you should mention that, Allan, because next in my notes here is Lewis Austin of Whatcombe, Washington, and this was back in 1893, and he invented pinking shears.
Yes,
which that's the thing that cuts out the little decorative edge on like fabrics and stuff. To me, that seems very precise. I mean, making pinking shears that's almost worse than making a dovetail joint in a drawer or something. You talk about precision. So,
you're talking exactly correct. Scissors is one of those indicators of where we were in technology.
Oh yeah.
Because as our metal skills got better, scissors got better. As our ability to make different metals came along, scissors was one of those indicators that moved right along with, well, it's made out of iron, or it's made out of copper, or it's made out of brass, or it's made out of whatever the metal was we were able to work at that time. And of course, now you look at scissors, especially when you get into the medical field, and these things are laser etched titanium.
Right.
You even have ceramic scissors and knives.
Yeah.
They're not even metal at all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How amazing is this?
Because I could see in medical applications maybe just to keep it sterile, or maybe they can't be magnetic for whatever reason. Maybe you're working around sensitive equipment and it has to be, So
It can't be magnetically attractive kind of thing.
I think what changes scissors is as metal, as we learn to work with different metals and different materials like that definitely changed it in our ability to mass produce, and I guess the ability to sharpen is really the big thing.
Well,
sharpening is not always easy.
No, and plus you're also talking about the actual ability to manufacture and stamp metal.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you get to that now, it's kind of a weird thing to add to the scissors, but the hydraulic press is a huge part of tool production, and especially something like scissors, which can be honestly pressed with enough weight out of a sheet of metal.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then coated, galvanized, tempered, sharpened, edged and with today's laser technologies and laser measuring capabilities, the fine grind, the actual cutting surface of these things, and this is where I'm going to talk to all of our crafting buddies out there. You all have a pair of fabric scissors.
Oh, yeah.
That you will murder a family member over if they use it to cut construction paper.
Yeah.
Because those fabric scissors are exactly for cutting cloth.
And it's amazing how well it does it. So,
Well, then you have your hair cutting scissors and trimming scissors and all different size scissors. And then, as you've pointed out, now we get into the shears and the pruners, and all of them work on this very crazy but simple principle of pushing against each other.
yeah, I was thinking how many tin snips, or these giant shears where they cut sheet metal, or they cut other thing, or bolt cutters, or just about anything where you put two blades together.
Yeah,
a limb
anything
cutter.
where just you get that friction between those two blades really close together, and you apply enough force, and whatever's in between them gives.
And I was thinking of something else, Alan, because when you were talking about the way we manufacture things, one of the rabbit holes I sometimes go down on YouTube, because I really love watching YouTube on my Roku television, where you can also watch Dark Oak Media.
Yes,
we'll
you
get
can.
to that, but when you I think Mr. Rogers is the one that started this, where they showing kids how something is made.
Yes.
It's like here's how peanut butter is made. But when you watch how certain things like tools, or certain things like a pair of scissors is made, I don't know. To me, I'm like, it looks so complicated as far as you got robots and you've got all this industry, and it's such precision, and it to me showcases the ingenuity of mankind. And I'm like, when you see all these things that we can manufacture efficiently and creatively, I'm like, it still gives me hope for the future, because I'm like, okay, this is pretty impressive. We weren't doing this 200 years ago.
Well,
or
it's
something
as simple as a pair of scissors.
right? Yeah.
And if you honestly think about it, a pair of scissors had to have been a pain to make 200 years ago.
Yeah, I don't even know how you. Yeah,
Because
exactly.
all of
you had
that
to drill
lining
holes
up,
through that metal. You had to
The skill to line up those edges.
And the other thing, not to really beat this into the ground, but it's precision, not just in keeping it sharp, Alan. But you've seen this. You work with a cheap pair of scissors and the thing's kind of loose. If it's not cutting right next to if it's not
those edges aren't slightly grinding against each other.
All it's going to do is just fold the fabric or fold to whatever, and it doesn't cut. So it's precision on many levels. So,
and we're blessed. Can you think about all the technology we're throwing at this, and a pair of scissors is cheap.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, honestly, compared to 100 years ago, where you might have saved up money for a year to buy a good pair of scissors. I'm not exaggerating.
it's a disposable thing.
Yeah, now you can, pop down to any local office supply store, and they have 15 different kinds of scissors sitting there. Or you go to the fabric store and they have another 20 kind of scissors. There's really premium brands. There's people that really feature of certain qualities, certain hand sizes.
Oh, yeah.
Again, such a simple tool that has shaped so much. Because honestly, how would we have had sailing ships without really good scissors and cutters?
Yeah. We need it. We need it all.
Clothing.
So,
We won't even talk about the clothing industry.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Well, our salute of the week, scissor. I think we gave it a proper salute, but yeah, it's just we never overlook the obvious here because it's easy. There's like you said, Alan. There's those things you can just easily take for granted, and then when you stop and reflect, it's like, wait a minute, these are actually really useful, and we need them.
Can you
in our
imagine
society.
not having them?
Yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of things you don't want to imagine not having, wait, that's like a triple negative. I don't know how many at least a double
You're
negative.
from Chicago. Just roll with it.
One thing you need, how's that, is a good quality HVAC system and clean air. And, of course, these days you want that smart home system.
Oh, yes.
And they do it all. There's a one-stop shop you can contact, and that's our friends over there at Brown Refrigeration. Larry Brown, the founder of Brown Refrigeration, boy, does he run a great operation over there. You talk about dedication and hard work, and the guys. How long has Larry been in the game? This is his passion. He's been around doing this for quite a while.
Decades.
70s. I think they said the late 70s is when he started.
Yep.
But when it comes to your HVAC system, it's not just a matter of, okay, well, it blew up, I need a new one. It's like it's a maintenance. It's like a vehicle. You need to establish a relationship with an HVAC company, and that's why you call Brown Refrigeration, because from the largest problems to just the smallest tune-ups, they're the ones to call, and it gives you that peace of mind. And as we say, they have a great culture over there at Brown Refrigeration. So you're dealing with quality people, and you have very competent professionals. And of course, the Remy Halo system. The more people think about their health, it's not just what we eat and what we drink and put into our bodies. It's the quality of the air that we're breathing in.
It is so much about what we breathe these days.
Yeah, and so the Remy Halo system has been a really great development, and they can help you with all of that. And the Remy Halo is a little more affordable than people might imagine, too. It's not cost prohibitive.
It's a small sun in your air conditioning system that gets rid of all the biologicals.
Absolutely. So get in touch with the good people at Brown Refrigeration. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com. Well, Alan, I wanted to open the conversation because I feel like we're not going to exhaust it here, but let's okay, this is now I feel like in other parts of the country, they're experiencing this too, but this has been a very rainy season so far. I feel like since February, we've been dealing with a lot of rain, maybe all year. And my thing is always like, well, I bet the farmers love it, but then again, maybe they don't. I don't know, and I don't think our homes love it.
I will tell you from both point of views. Sometimes a little bit's a blessing.
Yeah.
A whole lot is not necessarily a feast.
Yeah. Yeah, because
it makes it rough.
I'll tell you this. One thing that's irritating to me is because, I'll be frank, I have a huge yard. It's not enjoyable to cut. And it's like every time it rains, I'm like, okay, I just get the grass cut. It rains, and I feel like you can almost just sit there and watch it grow. I'm like, okay, now I got to get out there again and do this. And it's a never-ending battle. But I got to imagine our foundations, the other thing is if you get these torrential rains, like I think we had a really hard rain a couple of days ago.
Yes.
And that's when you discover, oh, I've got a leak in my roof, or oh, I've got, and you don't even give it a chance to dry out before the next batch of rain comes.
Well, I'm going to throw in for a lot of homes and a lot of commercial businesses, the oak waste. It's oak pollen season. So those little pollen tendrils have been blowing everywhere by the pound.
Oh, yeah.
And those things block up gutters and your gutter guards and that kind of stuff.
Those are worse than leaves.
Oh, I'd much rather deal with leaves than that stuff.
Yeah.
And, of course, right in the dead center of all of this, here we have this torrential downpour. So now we got water spraying out of gutters, going back and forth on roofs, getting up on the buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's I don't know, man. It's it's sort of a never-ending battle, but then again, you don't want a drought either.
No. We definitely need water, but sometimes you just have to look at it and go, all right, in the Mid-South, it's not so much a lack of water we deal with as it is water management overall.
Yeah, so I think we'll talk about that a little bit, and then apparently, speaking of management, you need to manage to keep the critters out of your house. So we're gonna segue because apparently, Critter Wars came home to a friend of yours with baby squirrels.
Oh yeah,
I can't say I've ever seen a baby squirrel.
Well,
except
you
maybe
will
in
today.
a cartoon or something. So that'll be an interesting discussion. But rain, squirrels, and then of course we've got some high tech things to discuss as usual. So we've got a wide variety of things coming up. So anyway, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna talk about the trails and travel. What is it? Never mind. We're gonna talk about rain.
Trials and tribulations of rain.
Hand me the caffeine, Max.
Geek Tank Radio, Saturday at noon.
Today's episode of Geek Tank Radio is brought to you by the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Eardrums. This isn't really so much, we're not getting any money for this. It sounds like more
obviously.
of a court-appointed type thing, you guys. So.
I think you got your mail backwards. I think that was sent to you certified.
I think so, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is certifiable.
Anyway,
So many ways.
Geek Tank Radio, News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Okay, you know what? Shut up.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
How many times have we heard that? Max, turn your microphone off. We got work to do. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from Dark Oak Media and our pal Max over there behind the glass.
See, you can't get him to shut up.
Exactly. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, and which apparently people are doing, right, Max? So it looks like we've got a couple of, I think we're going to forego or maybe just stick a pin in our rain discussion. How about this, Allan? I don't think
You're going to give it a rain delay.
Yeah, we're going to give it a rain delay. I mean, I think we can... we're going to come back. How often do we talk about water on the show anyway? But
It is the enemy.
Max, we're getting up. I had no idea that the big topic of the day would be scissors and Venus flytraps. But Max, you said we got a couple of texts. All right, so what's up first? So
we got a texter here that first they were saying about, how about fabric scissors like a pizza cutter and everything.
I know a girl I knew in high school, Allan, Missy Hale. She used to cut pizza with scissors. It works great, man.
Cheers.
You're a cook. Don't look at me horrified. You probably do the same thing, right?
Actually, I've actually seen people do that many times with the really long, like 9-inch shears. Just whack, whack.
Cleaning it probably takes longer than it would be if you just took a...
Yeah, you ran that through the dishwasher. But
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw a rocking pizza cutter.
Yeah.
Which was the blade that looks sort of like something from a Klingon movie.
Oh, like
with
a
two
bat
handles
lift.
on
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It's called
yeah.
a mezzaluna or a half moon.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
so Max knows about
Yes,
that.
he
Okay.
does. Man, look at that. He's throwing out some Italian words.
Okay.
So, yeah, it does, back in those days, it was kind of like, man, that looks like something out of a Klingon movie. And we're like, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, rocked back and forth, You cut a pizza very efficiently with those.
They work great. Well, except I will one caveat: if you go for the Chicago deep dish pizza, you're not cut. You do need a bat left to cut that thing. That thing.
You need a katana.
yeah, or a cleaver or something. But
No, you need that really big shiny wheel where you can get a good push down in there and get that baby cut.
I could let the folks borrow my katana after I'm done cutting up mannequins.
yeah, exactly. So Matt, and then Allan, you said you're getting a lot of texts and pictures of scissors
goodness.
and Venus flytraps.
Venus
and
flytraps have started popping up all over my text, and a couple of people have sent some great pictures of their scissors.
It's funny.
And
You
the
never know what's
prominent
gonna.
place they have in the drawer.
You never know what's gonna. But like we said, that's an easy thing to overlook, and it's something that we use just about every day. Somebody's using a pair of scissors as we speak right now.
Well, and here's the thing: a good pair of scissors rapidly becomes your favorite pair.
Oh yeah. That's true.
Hopefully they're using the scissors to cut the wire just so that they stop listening to you guys.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, maybe.
thanks, Max. Okay. All right. Hey, speaking of that, Max, you said our texter had an actual question. So, or put your thinking caps on, Allan. Enough shenanigans. What do they want? So,
They asked them, what would you use a single 30 amp circuit for?
a single 30.
Okay.
That's kind of is that a broad question or is it kind of too vague? But go ahead, Allan.
No, actually, it's one of those things. Generally, you start talking like 3-pole when you start talking stuff that uses like 30 amps.
Right.
So let's have a little talk about amps for a second.
Yeah.
Well, we talked last week about USB wires being everywhere.
Sure.
All right.
And they're going to be in more places.
And, we have more and more devices piling up. So actually, this is a great question to talk about this because the amperage is more or less, for the sake of what we're talking about here, the amount of power or work that something actually needs. So something very small uses a very small amount of amperage.
Your oven is using a lot more amperage than
your
your
oven is pulling
than your blender.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes. Well, your blender's pulling down a lot more than you think.
Yeah.
However, charging your phone
Right.
may
That's almost
only
nothing.
take an amp.
Okay.
And I'm not quoting anybody here. I'm just pulling a number out that's easy to use math with. So if you have a 15 amp breaker, that is the amount of space you have available on that line. When you exceed 15 amps, the breaker is going to trip.
So when you look at your, because this is a good talk, because Allan, to be honest, a lot of electrical stuff, even today, still kind of goes over my head, and because I don't know. But anyway, when you go to your circuit breaker, you open it, and you'll notice some breakers are bigger than others,
Right.
and they all have a little number on the little flipper switch, right? And that's
and people run into problems with this, especially now that people are setting up home offices.
right.
Because you've got that you got your little standard wall socket. It's got 2 little faces on it. Mm-hmm. And, of course, everybody plugs a surge protector into it that's got 9 plugs on it. Well, all right. Well, guys, if that little wall socket is on a 15-amp circuit, 15 amps is all you got. So how many amps does the monitor use? How many amps does the computer use? How many amps does the radio use? And the printer.
The little heater you got under your desk.
And the heater you've got under your desk.
Right.
So you have to start adding all of that up because when you exceed what's on that line, it's going to trip.
Which is good. We don't want to fire.
It's keeping you from burning down the house.
But I don't want to overlook. Okay, so our texter's question is more or less, what can you do with the 30? Because the 30 amp sounds like you can do quite a bit, right?
Right. A 30 amp is a big, heavy-duty thing. And generally, I have only done those with ground fault interrupts.
Okay,
that
what's that?
means the GFI, when you go to the actual wall socket itself, it also has a little breaker built into it that trips. And you should use these around bathrooms, kitchens, any place where the wall socket has a chance to get wet.
Because I know, so there's basically, you got the 2 plugins, and then in between are these tiny little buttons. One says reset, one says test. And you usually see them also outside where, where they could get wet, where the rain could hit them or something. So it's anything where you instantly are getting water in contact.
Exactly. If you're within 6 feet of water, you should honestly be using a ground fault interrupt wall socket.
Right.
Now, these big 30 amps, the last time I used a 30 amp with anything, we were installing a commercial coffee maker.
Right.
And I mean, this thing makes, honestly, like 5 gallons of coffee at a time.
Is this like what they'd use at Starbucks or something?
This is what you would use at your big catered meeting where you have 100 people all trying to get a cup of coffee at once.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Kind of thing. So I mean, this isn't where we're making coffee in little bitty spurts. We're making mass amounts of stuff.
Okay.
So this would be more like your buffet rather than your boutique.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is a food reference, Max. Mark that down.
What can I tell you? Well, I'm just telling you the last place I used one. So again,
well, that seems like, in other words, what you're saying is 30 amp gives you a lot of power. Basically,
it gives you a lot of power, but again, power with the proper usage.
Yeah.
You don't need 30 amps to run a computer.
Okay, so, that's another discussion.
Because
so basically,
what happens if the computer fries out at 20 amps and causes problems, but it's not enough of a problem to trip a 30 amp breaker?
Okay. See, this is interesting, Al, because the reason I wanted to, and I'm glad the texter, they didn't leave a name, did they, Max? So.
No, it's just the number.
All right. Well, whoever you are, I appreciate you spawning this because when it comes to electricity, Alan, I think there's a lot of. I feel like I'm not alone where there may be some misunderstanding. To me, it's like, okay, the safer thing is if I've got a computer or if I've got just something that doesn't require a ton of electricity, well, that 30 amp sounds great because I'm never going to trip the circuit. But then again, I might fry the computer or I might damage something up because it takes too much effort to.
Right.
So you really got to balance them out.
Well, not only do you have to talk about the amperage, but then you have to talk about the impedance or your ohm rating. Of impedance is the amount of resistance something is giving you. So anytime you push electrons through a wire, there is a certain level of resistance. Now, what happens when something begins going wrong? I had to replace a motor in a freezer day before yesterday. And the motor had been in there a long time. Honestly, we got our money's worth out of this motor 5 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
But what has happened is because it's aged, it's now gotten to a point where it is resisting more and more and more. It's generating more heat. And thus, now the breaker is going, all right, if you get any worse, I'm going to throw. And then, of course, the motor continues to provide resistance, continues to provide basically problems that the breaker is actually designed to take care of.
Oh,
now,
interesting.
This is why it is so important not to play mix and match.
Right.
Electricity is not a Garanimals closet. Really.
Does anybody know what a Garanimals is? Okay.
It might be a really old reference to how to dress your kids badly.
Okay.
So if we have light duty stuff, it's a bedroom.
Right.
You're gonna have a radio and maybe a TV and a lamp.
Right. Yeah.
15 amps is fabulous because if something goes wrong in the wiring we'll throw in Critter Wars. A squirrel or critter gets in your house or the cat or the dog chews on wires and crosses stuff up. You want it to cross up and you want it to pop that breaker as fast as possible.
Sure.
You don't want it to sit there and cook.
Starting the carpet on fire.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Which is why when you look in your breaker, you look in the breaker box and you'll see like the dishwasher. The dishwasher's over here. Well,
it's going to be one of the bigger ones probably.
He pulls some amps.
Right.
So the dishwasher is generally on his own circuit and he's generally going to have a bigger, he's going to have a bigger rating. Your home air conditioner usually has 3 breakers.
Question.
Yes,
I'm raising my hand here because Alan, once again, and it's funny how we didn't even plan to talk about this at all, but you're making me think of a lot of things here.
Well, it ties a lot into a lot of the rain we've had because if you got water in your external lighting system, you want that thing to short out and throw that breaker as fast as possible. You don't want it sitting out there trying to catch the yard on fire.
Okay, here was what I was thinking about. So, okay, my house is always a good example because it was built in 1962. So what are we looking at? However many years
60
ago.
years.
Right. So, I'm sorry, it was built in 52. So it's 70
years.
It's okay. Obviously, when it was built, there was a lot of technology that didn't even exist. We were using our homes differently than we are today.
Indeed.
And so what I'm thinking about is we've even talked with our buddy Jay Hill. One of the big remodeling projects he does these days is they turn what was once either a garage or once was just a extra room into a home office. And so I feel like what you're describing is your wiring was not laid out for this when it was first built. Maybe the newer homes take this into account, but it may be time for some people to get an electrician over there and kind of look at how to it's almost like a Tetris game. I'm thinking, okay, this little room over here, at one point we plugged in a lamp and a whatever else, and now we've got computer monitors, we've got all sorts of things because it's now our home office or something like that. So
I'll throw in yet another side thing that I have found enjoyable on occasion, and that is the exploits of going to look for paranormal things. And
that's a whole other show too.
That's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And I am the one most quoted for saying you don't need an exorcist, you need an electrician.
Yeah.
Because an old breaker box, everything gets old.
Sure.
Plastics age. I know they don't break down very well, but they age, they become brittle. The metals that we've been using, the copper contacts in there, they have a tendency to oxidize. So if you've got a 50, 60, 70 or year older home, of breakers have changed a lot in 50 years. We used to have glass breakers. You screwed them in.
Oh yeah, or fuses.
Yeah, well, that was the old cheat was you had the glass fuse and you could put a penny in the bottom of it and screw it back in.
Oh, I've seen that.
And that was a great way to burn down
your
the
house.
house. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of these things have changed and upgraded, and especially now with our power designs. Now we've got USB devices all over the house. We've got computers. We've got Wi-Fi. We have the availability of solar power, wind power, alternative energies, house batteries. All of these inventions, basically are drastically in the last 20 years changing what you're calling, or what I'm going to tell you is called the energy profile of your building.
That's a good line. The energy profile. I think we're gonna reuse that term. That's a good one.
Because the energy profile of a 50 or 60-year-old house at the time was maybe designed to have a hair blower.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, admittedly, that hair blower used about 10 amps.
Right.
And could pop popcorn, but you didn't have a lot of safety devices back then. You could throw it in the bathtub and kill somebody, kind of thing.
Allan, you're making me think too, because a lot of times, and we don't want to beat this into the ground, but I feel like this is also a safety issue. There's those certain wires, or there's that certain outlet, because you're a big fan of having this temperature sensor where, for whatever reason, okay, you're like, why is my vacuum cleaner wire scalding hot right now?
Yes.
What is happening here? And it's like, so really, I like that. What is the profile?
The energy profile of your home
needs to be balanced. You could say.
If you haven't put in new wall sockets in the last 20 years,
sure,
it's time for new wall sockets.
Yeah,
it's not that big a deal, but if you've got 50-year-old, 60-year-old wall sockets, really, honestly, it's time to upgrade.
Okay,
it's time to get some new, fresh, clean connections in there,
and they're cheap. I mean,
well, they're amazingly inexpensive. It's not that big a deal to change one out, especially if you got a good breaker box and a nice sunny day. So the biggest thing here to any of these breaker questions and amperage questions is just a tiny little bit of math.
Yeah.
What is the load that I'm going to put on this circuit?
Yeah.
And this is where the old 70s sitcom or drama where you had the one socket with the 87 things plugged into it.
Right.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
Break this up. However you got to break it up. And this is why we talked last week about the addition of USB ports.
Sure.
On the wall sockets these days. So much has changed. So great question. What would I use a 30 amp single pole for?
Yeah.
Probably a big piece of commercial equipment.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, keep those questions coming in at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. Call or text. Maybe leave at least your first name so we can acknowledge you on the air. So, well, Allan, speaking of, in a minute, I think we need to get to our Critter Wars. But before we do that, let's talk about our buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, because you talk about a guy, we always say he's a dynamic personality. And I don't know if we always explain what that means. For one thing, he brings energy to a situation, which is helpful when you're not sure. There's nothing worse for me than talking to somebody and you're wondering, do they even care? Are they whatever? He cares about this, folks, and you're going to get the sense of that when you meet him. But it's also, he knows everybody. He knows certain things in the roofing industry. He's got a skill set that not too many roofers have, and he brings all of that to bear. And that's what I mean by a dynamic personality. If you've got a situation with your roof, it may qualify to be covered by your homeowner's insurance. Well, Jay, in addition to being a GAF Master Elite installer and 5-star accredited with the Better Business Bureau, he's a former insurance agent.
And there is nothing like watching him and the adjuster or the person that comes out to look at it sit around and talk insurance.
Yeah.
It is an entirely foreign language.
To me, it is.
It is, but it's great to know you got somebody over there discussing that with them, and at the end turns around, translates it to you in about 2 minutes, and goes, "All right, here's what we got.
Yeah.
And now you can make an informed decision.
And full disclosure, he's replaced my roof, he's replaced your roof, he's replaced Brandon Olmstead's roof from Geek Tank
Yeah,
Radio.
he's worked his way through the crowd pretty good.
We wouldn't deal with somebody if we didn't trust the quality of their work. And he likes to deliver good news too, because a lot of times people are dreading the roofing replacement. It is not something they look forward to, but then when he gets involved, suddenly it's like, wow, this is exciting and it's empowering.
It just wasn't that bad.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
of course they add roofing systems. These are not just throwing shingles up there. This is an entire system from the underlayment to the flashing to everything, and then it has these lifetime transferable warranties, which is pretty amazing. I mean, it's
just got mine in the mail.
Yeah, exactly. So get in touch with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. You can call Jay directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, Allan. Well, apparently Critter Wars came home this week for a friend of yours, right?
That's the most foul, cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you ever set eyes on. I just wanted to hug.
Oh, rats in the kitchen, just like that delightful movie I taped in the theater.
Allan's favorite movie, that Ratatouille. If you had rats in the kitchen, you know.
Oh, Ratatouille is a great movie.
Well, Allan, what
Alrighty.
happened here? And this is a first. You showed me a picture, and I honestly have never seen this before.
Well, yeah.
So.
Well, actually, this week I have been blessed with any number of fledglings. Of two facilities I work with. One of them is covered up in sparrows. The other one is covered up in robins. And last night, a friend of mine sent me a picture and goes, "This was in my house."
Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. Time out. Okay. So many questions emerge here. You get a baby squirrel in your house, and your first impulse is to whip out your phone, take a picture of it, where the thing could dart off under your couch or somewhere else.
Well, you know, as the text went, I became a big girl and got my gloves and escorted this thing outside the house.
That's what she said. Okay,
So,
gotcha. All right.
You know, so bless people's little hearts. It is right now critter season. Of everything that has been a baby is now starting to crawl around and get into trouble.
Okay, how long do squirrels stay that size? Because honestly,
they grow fast.
That's the thing. I can't say I've ever seen a baby squirrel. So, and then I didn't know that they wander. Where do they even live? Do they live in a tree?
This one's in our attic.
Okay, so that's where it was born. So this was a domesticated. It's like
no. This is your problem. This is squirrels living in the attic. One fell down between the wall, came out around the bathroom pipes, and was trucking across the bedroom floor.
But that's what I'm saying. This is a squirrel that was, you could say, born in captivity. Like born in a zoo. This one was born in somebody's attic or something.
Right.
And, okay, well, that doesn't sound good. There's squirrel breeding going on in somebody's attic.
Well, you had squirrel condos for years.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
You
I know.
raised how many generations of cute little rodents?
Yeah, before Jay Hill got rid of them
Yes.
with that flash. Well, and your tutelage, too. But, yeah.
But, you know, so welcome to baby raccoons, baby birds. These things they are everywhere right now. I was at a facility earlier this week, and they're honestly down their railing was like 9 teenage sparrows, all sitting there chirping at their parents to come feed them.
You know what this reminds me of too, Allan? These squirrels must not be very good parents. They're letting their kids wander off through the wall studs or something, and you know, where they could easily get smashed or
to defend any parent, if you've got a 5-year-old and you blink, they have done something in the time it took you to blink.
Okay.
So
a squirrel in the house sounds like a real problem.
They are a horrible problem because again, talking about the breakers, they like to chew stuff and they chew wires.
Yeah, wires are attractive for them.
For some reason, they love the plastic on those wires.
It's like chewing licorice.
That's why we started putting stuff in conduit.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck with that, whoever you are with with your squirrel issue. But boy, I would say if you see a baby squirrel in your house, you got bigger problems.
Yeah, there will be a further investigation of the house in just a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, hour one of Tool Talk Radio is in the can, but stay tuned for hour 2, where, among other things, Allan, we're going to get to our bad homeowner confession line.
Mm-hmm.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, which I'm saying much slower, Allan, because I've been told I say it too fast. So, you know what? And don't even worry about the wood turning. I make wood turning for my own enjoyment. I very rarely get commissioned to do it.
Why would people hire you to rotate trees?
Yeah, exactly. And our buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out all the action over there. Send your stories, send your comments, send your questions. You know, we can answer in real time. I've already posted the must-have item of the week, which we're going to get to shortly. Max, in a minute we're going to get to our confession hotline, which is it's going to be one of my confessions, Allan.
I'm waiting.
I'm going to purge here on the air, but before that, we just want to follow up because I guess we got another text, Max, from another listener.
Things are getting a little bit electric here.
From
Somebody named Dave. It says, you guys may want to mention if homeowners own a home between the 80s and 90s, there's a high probability that all wires in the junction box are stabbed into the back of the devices. I have run into that at least 100 times in my experience as a service technician.
Huh. Okay. So when he says stacked, though, the danger with that is what, Allan?
It's got a lot of stuff in the box.
They cram too much in.
Yeah.
Okay, insight, Allan. You just gave me a thought. So, okay, he said the 80s and 90s. Is that right, Max? So, okay, well, we were just talking about how technology changes and things change with that. Well, what if we hadn't upgraded and maybe updated our I don't know, junction boxes and things like that. So suddenly all the, you know, in the 80s, we started getting the beginning of cell phones and different
we did.
big screen TVs and just all this new electronics. And maybe our houses weren't ready for it yet. And they had to shoehorn all this stuff into the smaller space.
You know, I would love to argue with you, but I probably can't.
Okay. All right.
You know, a lot just depends on how your home was laid out, when it was built. And also a lot of this depends on, was the house being built for somebody or was this part of a mass package?
Yeah.
AKA somebody had come in and they were building an entire subdivision. So all you did, the original homeowner, was pick the finish.
Yeah.
So
okay.
There's a lot of things that go into that. Now, if you do have one that is just stacked, you can get a junction box extender.
Okay.
It looks just like your junction box. You take the cap, the face off of it. You set it down on the same screws. You screw it into place, and you put the cap on top of that. And now you don't have everything so compressed down in there.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thanks, Dave. We appreciate that. And, you know, it's funny because we didn't even start off the day thinking we were going to talk about this, but you never know. It's called the free flow of conversation for a reason. All right, but, Allan, now it's time for me to purge on the air.
I've called you all here because I need some honest answers.
Yeah, they all kind of broke. So, when do I start?
There is a basket of oil-soaked rags above a wood-burning stove.
Are you out of your mind? You put a jet engine on a lawnmower?
This time, they are going to be held accountable. This time, they are the ones who will pay.
You are the one who will pay.
Oh, yeah, I was. So, Allan, this is my confession. This is, you know,
I'm ready.
We, you know, just to set the table, though, we always invite you to participate in our confession line, and you can do that during the show, or you can do it after the show. You really, any time of the week.
Anytime during the week.
Call the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline. Call or text. You can leave a voicemail or text with your confession of how you failed, either as a homeowner or maybe as a craftsperson, working with tools or just doing something.
Or things just went sideways.
Yeah,
you know, it's not so much a failure as an opportunity for improvement.
Absolutely. Send that over to 901-683-0989. And if it's interesting enough, we'll read it on the air. So, well, Allan, this is my confession, and this is early on in my years as a homeowner. And now at this point, I'd been contracting long enough where I knew how to do enough things. But to be honest, certain technologies and certain products came about that I didn't use often enough to know how they behave.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about expanding foam because I know that's one of your favorite things.
Wow.
This is in the early mid 90s that we're talking. My experience with expanding foam was limited. I used it sometimes, but if you don't know what it is, folks, I mean, I feel like people do, but it's that spray can, and it's great. You spray it, and it just it expands. It fills any void.
Most people look at that stuff as nightmare in a can.
It's fun though. I mean, I have to imagine a kid getting their hands on a can of expanding foam. I would have loved it as a kid.
Oh my gosh.
It is messy. Don't get it on your clothes. It's never coming off, and even on your fingers, it's one of the most difficult things to come off. So, well, Alan. So my first home that we moved in, and this was like I said, early 90s, and so this house was a little 2-bedroom house,
right?
And we had kids at that. Well, we had a daughter, and then we had twins on the way. We moved into a house with my wife being expecting twins, which. That was a lot of fun. So we were about to outgrow this house. Well, the benefit of this house was it was a 2-bedroom house. However, connected to it was a really large, it was a covered carport. And then there was a room in the back that basically had been used for almost like a storage shed or something.
Okay.
But it was a room. It just needed insulation and sheetrock. It was big. It was like a 15 by 15 room or something.
Wow.
So
okay.
once this carport was enclosed, we were going to have almost a 4-bedroom house. So it was like, okay, we saw the potential. So the idea was, if you can picture the carport, it had a brick wall that went up about 2 feet that went down the side. So that kept the water out, which is great. And so my idea was to build on top of that. I was going to frame it in, and then frame in the front of it, the opening, and put in about 5 windows. So actually, now that I think of it, I think it was 4 windows. Whatever.
Okay.
So it's 4 windows, and so if you know anything about installing windows, folks, that when you put in a window, there's supposed to be gaps around the side, because you don't just cram a window into a space, because the odds of it being perfectly square or whatever are pretty bare. The window needs to be able to open and close. So a lot of times you fill that void with some shims, and it's a little bit of finesse work. It's not such an easy task.
You don't want it load bearing. You want the window to freely float in the wall.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but you also need to insulate it, because otherwise it's going to be drafty. Well, that was when I whipped out the expanding foam. So I had these windows in place. And don't forget, I'm a young, newly married man, and I have to look like I'm tough and I know how to do everything. And plus, I was sort of the one that talked my wife into doing this whole project. And it was like, oh, I can do this. I can build a 3,000 or whatever.
You're a typical Gryffindor.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So
we're good.
And when I showed her the expanding foam, I said, "Forget this insulation stuff. We're gonna spray the expanding foam. It's gonna fill every bit. We're gonna have the most draft-free windows," which in theory is correct.
It's true.
However, there's the word finesse didn't really enter into the picture. I tried to cram as much expanding foam into all. So what I did, Alan, is I put all of the windows in. Then, because the expanding foam dries quickly, so you have to basically work with the can. You go from one thing to the next, because it's not the kind of thing you can close the can of expanding foam and come back the next day. It's going to be dried out, and you got to use it.
Yeah, once you let this genie out of the bottle, you're going with it.
So I started. In fact, I think I did all 4 windows, I think, with 1 can, but maybe 2. But anyway, I filled it up. I got the foam going, and then I can't even remember. I think I went in some other part of the house and did something else and came back 2 hours later, and it's almost like it looked like a monster movie, like the Blob. You know what I mean? It expanded.
It grew.
But then the other, it made a mess on the floor, but at that point, the floor was just concrete anyway. It didn't matter. It just fell onto the floor. So the mess wasn't the bad part of it. However, the part that was bad is none of the windows would open. That stuff swelled up to the point, because we should talk about what a precision instrument a window is. I mean, it's got to have enough friction to hold the window up when you lift it, but it's got to have enough free-flowing movement. And so I basically had to hang my head in shame, cut out all the expanding foam that I had put in, and then I went back and I put in just the right amount, and it worked fine. But it was a lot of extra work. So, but I have to imagine a lot of people have misused expanding foam, and that's why I wanted to bring this confession up. But also, expanding foam is a great thing if you use it correctly.
Well,
so
And I'll also throw in, don't forget you need the most important accessory to expanding foam.
Okay, I think I know what it is, but
it's a hacksaw blade.
Yeah, you love the hacksaw blade.
I love the hacksaw blade.
Only when it's dry, when it's completely
once it's dried. So tomorrow,
right.
you put the expanding foam in today, and yes, it's going to expand. It's going to grow to 4 times its volume. It's going to put some pressure.
Yeah.
It's filling in an area, and it may come back out of the hole. Don't worry about it. Do not freak out about it. Let it dry. Come back tomorrow, get you a hacksaw blade, and now you can easily trim that stuff up, make it nice and smooth, sand it a little bit, paint over it, you're done.
I want to say one thing about the drying process, though, Alan, because this stuff will fool you. If you're new to expanding foam, like I said, the big thing to keep in mind is don't get it on your clothes. It will never come off. And it turns like dark, gummy brown and black. It looks awful. So don't and don't get it on your fingers. It'll come off eventually. But the other thing is, Alan, when you use expanding foam, initially you might come back an hour later and say, oh, it's dry because the surface is dry, but the inside takes a lot longer to cure and to dry. And also, you can't just fill up like a 5-gallon bucket with expanding foam because the inside won't dry. It'll just stay gummy and sticky and everything. So you have to use the right.
Well, there is a slight amount of moisture required when you do this. So if the area you're hitting has already gotten slightly moist, like you've discovered you had a leak behind a soffit or something, and you're going to shoot a little expanding foam in there and seal that up. Or maybe you've had a squirrel chew.
Yeah.
And you're going to seal that area up good so they can't get back through it. If it's already a little moist in there, that stuff is going to expand and cure even faster.
Sure. Now, I didn't know that. Why does the moisture play a role like that?
It's part of the catalytic process that makes that stuff stiffen up.
Huh. Now, that's interesting. It reminds me of that Gorilla Glue, because the Gorilla Glue, you're supposed to moisten the wood.
Just slightly.
And then it really foams up, too.
Yes.
I never knew that was the case with expanding
it's
foam.
part of the catalyst, yes.
That's interesting. So, it's such great stuff. But I will say another warning tale is I found out years later that if you're spraying expanding foam into a wall, like into sheetrock, the expanding foam always wins.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you're gonna as it's coming out of as it's coming out and swelling up the sheetrock and cracking it. It always wins.
Use judiciously. And I will also point out that several companies are now making a fire foam.
Oh,
so it is non-flammable.
It's okay. That's interesting. In fact, that might be a discussion for next week. To put a pin in that one, the fireproof. But also, I think there's other companies that make expanding foam that doesn't expand quite as much. There are different
levels, right?
Right, and some cure differently. But it's great stuff. Just use it carefully, especially around doors and windows. So okay,
a dab will do you.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wasn't the most horrifying thing I've ever done, honestly. I mean, but I feel like other people may have had their issues with expanding foam. So I thought it was worth a mention.
I'm going to throw in this way. Also, don't forget, if you didn't get enough in there time number 1, there's nothing that says you can't come back and do it again.
Yeah.
So working in layers often is the best results.
Yeah, that's true for a lot of fillers.
Ditch even asked, I'm texted on the text line, and he said, can you use expanding foam on driveway cracks?
No.
Well,
no.
Well, hold on, Ditch. Let's get the counterpoint ready. Here's what I would say about that, Ditch, if you're listening. So here's something, and I didn't expand. Who would have thought we were talking about electrical things and expanding foam? But there we go. Here's my thinking, Alan. Okay, you might have. It depends on the size of the crack or the size of the hole. Because here's what I'm going for, Alan. What if you've got a big sinkhole? I have one of these under my sidewalk in the front yard. Okay, you put a little bit of expanding foam to basically give the concrete something to land on. If you've got a big, as a matter of fact, in sheetrock, sometimes you just have that big void. Well, a little expanding foam swells up to the point where when you put the spackling paste, it has something to sit on, basically. Well, I think the same could be said for your driveway. If you put a little bit in there and then top it off with the mortar, I don't know, that might work.
All right, well, it's not.
I'm not going to guarantee
it's not pressure durable. Now, I will confess that I will use expanding foam to fix a loose fence post.
Exactly. So that's not so different.
I will confess to that. However, the expanding foam is not a weight-bearing surface.
Yeah, good
We're
point.
in a driveway. You're going to compress that. There are other fillers that will do a much better job than that. It's not designed for weight. It will crush.
Well, I think
it will crush.
It would depend on the size of the crack. Because if you're talking about a crack, Alan, I'm thinking they make these flexible fillers where it's like almost like a silicone mixed with gravel or something.
But it's designed to be on the bottom, not in the wall.
No, I'm talking about on your driveway.
Right. On the driveway, anything designed to fill a crack in a driveway is designed to have the pressure and weight and the possible motion.
Yeah,
of
it's
the
flexible,
concrete.
so it'll move when you drive across it. So I still think this holds. I think it just depends on the situation.
We're almost creating a challenge here.
Well, no kidding.
And so next time I will go this far. Next time I have an opportunity with a crack in the pavement like that.
Yeah.
I'll use some expanding foam on it, and we'll see what kind of results we get.
Ditch said I'm on Team Joe on this one.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I know.
Ditch and I are more like Captain Kirk. We're going to just dive in and just go
Gryffindor too,
for it.
you'd say?
Oh, probably.
Oh, Ditch, if you ever take the test over on Pottermore, the Harry Potter website, you can find out what house you're in. I'm a Gryffindor.
Apparently I'm a Ravenclaw, I thought.
Yeah, intellectual.
Yeah,
and of course, Alan's a Slytherin, but I bet you Ditch is a Gryffindor.
Probably.
He strikes me as that kind. So. You know who else is a Gryffindor? I dare say, Alan.
Oh boy.
How's this for a segue? Cindy Williams, the owner of Shelf Genie of the Mid-South.
Yeah.
You talk about that go for it and gusto attitude. Although she is intellectual as well, so she might be. She could go either way, Ravenclaw or Gryffindor.
Ravendor.
I think her boldness, though, is more in keeping with the Gryffindor house. And it's funny because she's going to be listening and have no clue what we're talking about.
Absolutely none.
Anyway, you know what she does have a clue about, though, is creating great solutions for your kitchen. Because your kitchen cabinets, it's almost like you talk about a blank canvas. There is all sorts of wasted opportunities sometimes, or there's really no end to the way you can configure them or use them. And a lot of times, I hate to say it, your kitchen cabinets are not being utilized to their best advantage, especially when there's wasted space, that's not being used, or getting to something is difficult. There's a lot of people that have mobility issues, or just even if you don't have mobility issues, if you got to move 15 pots and pans out so you can get to that skillet at the bottom, that's a hassle. And all these the time you could spend cooking and enjoying your kitchen is spent hunting for things. So Cindy Williams with Shelf Genie of the Mid-South, they offer these great glide out solutions, and everything is custom. They the designers, the installers, everybody involved with the process goes to Shelf Genie school. So they're well trained, and they create a custom solution for you. And the best part is the consultation is free. So they come in and they start giving you all the basically great advice, and you start looking at your kitchen in a new way.
Well, kitchen, pantry, any place you have storage.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point too, Alan. Your bathroom cabinets and really in your hallway. And one thing I'm going to start challenging people: start looking at some of the rooms, like your media rooms, where you've got 1,500 DVDs, toys. Or your kids' room, the playroom, or something. They create these great solutions, and they make it fun to keep your house organized. So get in touch with the good people at Shelf Genie of the Mid-South. You can call them. Call them directly at 901-422-8225. And when you do that, tell them you heard about it on Tool Talk Radio, or you can go to shelfgenie.com/Mid-South Memphis. But, great people. And I think I have to check her tour dates, Alan. I know one thing that's coming up is the Italian Fest. She'll be there. That's going to be fun. That's a big thing. And so she'll have the tent set up there. And really all summer, I think the Balloon Festival. She's anywhere there's the action and anywhere there's a party, Shelf Genie of the Mid-South is there. So
good.
But good stuff over there, and just great people, highly qualified, and it really does transform your kitchen. So kitchen and bathroom, and really any room of the house. So, well, Alan, I'm looking at our notes here, and I think when we come back, why don't we just keep it straightforward? When we come back, we'll get to our must-have item of the week. And then I don't know, we've got different options, and maybe you and I will roundtable this off the air, but you did intrigue me with one thing. You said that drip in the sink is worth addressing. Don't just let that let that go. So maybe we'll talk about that when we come back. But anyway, lots of interesting dynamic discussion going on today. All right, well, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
You've got paper, and you've got paint. A deadly combination! Let me show you.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
I got news for you, Max. Allan can make anything a deadly combination. Give him a can of paste, and it'll turn into a weapon.
You got expanding foam, a deadly combination.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning. Gosh, it's still going to be difficult for me to start slowing that down. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out all the action over there. Send us. Can they send video? I guess they can.
Yep,
right?
They can get a picture. We can get a video.
Actually, you can also send pictures to the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline. And so, among other things, what we want, Allan, just to take care of a little business here, we love getting these confessions. The Tool Talk Radio confession line is great because I think it's helpful. I think it's therapeutic. I feel better after confessing my stupidity on the air a few minutes ago, and it's
not stupidity. It's uninformed enthusiasm.
I think ignorance is different than stupidity. I was ignorant of the correct uses of expanding foam back in my early years, and whatever.
And wow, were you educated?
Yeah, I would, and you get it. Nothing educates you more than failure, honestly. So it's a valuable service. So you can call any day of the week, call or text, and send us your confession, and we'll read it on the air. So, all right, Allan, but let's get civilized. It's time for our must-have item of the week. I don't know why that had to do with civilization. I don't know, Allan. Some of my segues are pretty dumb. But if you've checked out our Facebook page, you know what the item is. But Allan, describe what I'm holding up. This is a pretty unique piece of hardware. You are holding up a
Forstner flange bit. It is a drill bit designed to create essentially a flat-bottomed hole.
Yeah, I don't know what Forstner even means. That does not sound.
You don't know who Benjamin is? Benjamin Forstner.
So the guy named it after himself.
Yes.
Okay.
I like the other name. It's called the boring bit.
Yeah, boring is what I've always called this, a boring bit. Now, folks, if you have to drill holes in wood, when we're saying boring, okay, there's your normal drill bits. A lot of people have drill bits from anything. It could be from 1/8 of an inch down, or really even smaller. It could be a 1/16 of an inch if you get down to it, all the way up to maybe 3/4 of an inch. And then when you start getting above that, then you're talking about bits that might be there's one that's called a spade bit. It looks like a spade shovel.
Yes.
That's rough work. That is not precision work. No. I'm just warning you. And if you use those incorrectly, what you wind up with is a triangle. You don't even wind up with a hole. You've seen those, Allan, where they're flapping. Or you hit a nail, and all of a sudden it throws the bit, and it starts.
Oh my gosh!
It blows out the backside. Well, the reason I love the Forstner bit, it's for one thing, it's just a cool looking bit. But what it gives you is it stays straight. Like there's a little sharp point at the tip.
That's the gimlet.
So what you want to do, folks, if you're using one of these, is you get a pilot hole, which is basically you find the center of the item and you drill it with a very small drill bit, maybe a 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch, and then that gives this thing some direction.
Yes.
And what I like about this bit is it looks almost like a Superman S or something, Allan. There's a lot of cutting surface here, but then there's a lot of open areas where the wood can find its way out. Because some of the problems,
wood, metal, and concrete, they're used for all three.
Yeah, because one of the problems when with some drill bits is when you drill, you got to remember to back out. Like if you're drilling through a 4x4, you don't just blast through. You drill in a little bit, you back out,
you got to constantly let the material fall out.
Yeah, let the material. Well, this one kind of pulls the material out a little more efficiently. And what it gives you too is if you're boring something, like the one I have here is 1.5 inch bit, and it drills, boy, a nice, precise, clean hole. So if you have to drill a hole and then later put like a dowel or something in there, it fits nice and snug, and it's flat at the bottom, and it doesn't just blow it out.
Well, they were originally designed by Mr. Benjamin Forstner as a way to cut rifle barrels.
Really? This thing will cut through that, huh?
Yeah, so they would line up the barrels, and then that little Forstner bit would push all the way through, which is why it's so good at handling materials.
Yeah, it's cool. It's in
now if you need to put a round hole into sheetrock or anything else.
Yeah,
honestly, one of the best bits ever. Fast, efficient.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of spitballing something here because I have somewhat of an interest in weaponry. I was wondering if with a Forstner bit, they ever made a modified bit to where, because there's a difference between a round bore of a rifle and a rifled bore.
Correct.
So do they have Forstner bits back in the day that would rifle the bore for
you?
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, that's exactly what they did.
Huh.
So...
I will say one thing about this, though, Alan, when I'm looking at it, you better be very careful to make sure you're not drilling into something where it has any chance of hitting a nail or a screw, because I could see it's going to really mangle this thing up. Well, these have very precise cutting edges, and if you damage that, you pretty much undid the whole point of it.
Mostly you find those around people that are making furniture.
I believe that, you need that clean,
You're looking for that perfect cut and that kind of stuff. I have to admit, I use Forstner bits with a modified soda bottle. I have a little soda bottle that has a couple of thumbtacks on one side. I just pin that to the wall, take my Forstner bit, pop my 2-inch hole that I need to run all my cables through, and it very efficiently doesn't throw the wall dust.
That's pretty clever, Alan.
It drops it
all
right
the dust
behind
is going into the wall.
I honestly have a soda bottle pinned to the wall, and it will drop 95% of the dust straight into the bottle.
Well, let's
how efficient and trust me, when you're working, especially on a ladder, you're 8 or 9 feet up, working at the top of the ceiling like that,
right?
And you're having to run a lot of cables or set up a computer system.
Yeah,
those are magnificent.
Yeah, I just a little small segue here, Alan. I feel like one thing we're going to discuss, maybe we'll get to it next week, is you're talking about sheetrock. Anytime you talk about sheetrock, it triggers me because I hate all the dust. I hate how flimsy it is. I just, I know it's cheap and easy to build, but next week or some in the weeks ahead, let's talk about the future of sheetrock, because I think they can improve it quite a bit and eliminate some things, and maybe it won't even look the same in the future. But anyway, we'll put a pin in that. But yeah, the Forstner boring bit is just outstanding. So treat it gently, folks. Don't just. The other thing is, I keep mine in the package that it came in because you want to protect this. You don't just throw this at the bottom of your toolbox. No. This needs to be treated with respect.
Oh, and I really wouldn't want to stick my finger in it.
Yeah, because this is sharp.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're
the edges
extremely well milled. Well, we were talking about scissors earlier and talking about the edges and that type of thing. And this was actually designed and edged as just almost razor sharp as you can get.
Yeah.
For something for going through wood, or there's Forstner bits for concrete, Forstner bits for metal, Forstner bits for pretty much any surface area you want to work on. Now, they're not cheap either.
No, they're the higher end
You are making a little bit of an investment. It's a little more expensive than drill bits. But if you need a flat-bottomed hole or you need that perfectly round cut.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, great tool. So, all right, our must-have item of the week. And we, check it out on our Facebook page and tell us what you think. And maybe if you've had any exciting adventures with a Forstner bit, share your triumphs.
If you work at the big box store, I suggest you stock up that shelf now.
Okay, absolutely. Hey, Alan, before we move along, because we do want to get to our kitchen sink, I guess it's our sink discussion, but tell us what's going on with with darkoakmedia.com? Or do we want to know, Max? I don't know, but
well, I don't know. The biggest thing going on with Dark Oak Media is, of course, Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah.
We're getting around the world, and the biggest news I have is, well, us.
Well, that sounds very egotistical, Alan. But
well,
okay.
When I'm looking at the show lineups, and yes, of my shows in New Orleans about, vampires and ghosts are very popular. But the most popular show we had last week was Geek Tank Radio.
Okay, cool.
And Geek Tank Radio has made it to Europe in a big way.
Yeah, what do you mean?
So, well, we have a lot of fans listening all over Europe now.
Huh. Well, why don't they call us, Alan? I mean, I'd like to say top of the morning to some of these people.
Absolutely. So,
okay.
For those of you just tuned in Scotland, Ireland, and the UK, well, good day to you, and we're happy to see you. And, of course, a shout out to our friends down in the Dominican Republic. Apparently, we're very popular there.
Okay, cool.
So, darkoakmedia.com is having a pretty international week this week.
All right, cool. So, and you can watch on your Roku TV.
Yes.
You can watch on, and trust us, folks. There's some weird stuff too. I mean, Alan travels in bizarre circle. You hear about his adventures during the salute. Imagine that.
Well, one of our
whole gang of those people. So
one of our most popular shows is It Came from the International Market.
Yeah,
in which some nice mid-Southerners get to try different kinds of packaged foods and drinks from literally around the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, but Alan, there's also the ghost hunting. There's a lot of interesting stuff. But anyway, so yeah, go to darkoakmedia.com and then download it on your there's links to download Geeky Side TV.
Oh yeah, Geeky Side TV's there, Roku's there, Spotify is there. Pretty much any podcast or vidcast, or I think they're calling them vodcasts now.
Okay.
Are whatever your platform is, we're there and we're available.
Okay. All right. And then I want to remind people, Alan, and I'm going to say this slowly because apparently our friend Donna told me that I talk too fast. So if you need a deck, or if you need a pergola, or if you need a patio cover, or if you need anything really made out of wood for the outside of your home, especially because that's what I like. I love outdoor projects. You get fresh air, and I just enjoy I just enjoy that type of project. So if you need anything made out of wood for the outside of your home, get in touch with me. Call me directly at 901-921-7105 or go to my website, thorshomes.com. And one thing that is fun, too, is just if you call and if you get, if you hire me to do something, be prepared to wind up being discussed on the radio because a lot of my customers, they provide just some of these jobs. There's so much good content that comes out of it. Like this job I'm on now. I've been on this job forever because it just keeps getting added and added. I mean, she owns Becky, our buddy Becky. She owns chickens. Her kid, I guess her kid is a big animal lover. They've got dogs and cats running around. There's drainage issues that they've had to overcome. There's giant, I don't know, just all sorts of things happening. And, that makes for good material for the show. So it'll be discussed.
Well, and I believe you had demonstrated expert use of expanding foam on this job.
Yeah. A lot of good material. So if if that doesn't bother you, of course, you don't have to be.
You don't have to be on the radio, but you probably will be.
Anyway, but yeah, once again, get in touch with me at 901-921-7105 or go to my website, thorshomes.com. Well, Alan, you mentioned something in our show prep, and you were talking about, I don't know if this is a pet peeve of yours or it's just something, but basically don't ignore that drip in your sink, right?
Well,
I mean.
This is the result of a commercial story of where a commercial sink had been dripping and leaking for apparently a rather lengthy period of time. And yesterday afternoon, lo and behold, the little cartridge inside the handle seized up.
Wait. Okay, which one are we talking about? You're talking about inside the...
I'm talking about...
Was it the hot or cold?
Inside the hot.
Because the hot tends to corrode quicker, doesn't it?
It did. It was inside the hot. This was in a commercial kitchen. And this is something that, it happens. But it seized up. And where it seized up was in, of course, the wide open position.
Oh, great.
So this thing is
flooding
just
out.
gushing water. You can't turn it off. They actually broke the handle trying to get it to turn off. They actually snapped it off. So
great. Yeah.
So we're shutting off water and all this. And I went, how many people at home have got that drip in the sink somewhere?
Right.
And one, as we've all known, and Joe, you've experienced this personally, that one little drip of water, that is a lot more water than you think it is.
Well, think of it this way. If you were to just plug the sink and go away for the day, how much
water
would it take
would you
to
be
fill up?
walking through?
Yeah.
Because that one little drip, it's just shocking. Every few seconds, there's another drop. Every few seconds. It is a lot of water.
Yeah.
And it's telling you something in your faucet has failed.
I want to make a distinction, though, Allan, because your kitchens, I just want to say a sink and in your bathtub, depending on the age of your home or whatever, is a different, in terms of changing it out. A sink is really easy to change.
Yes.
I mean, usually you just reach under the faucet, you turn off the water line, and right away all the water is gone. Like, when you change something in the bathtub, even if you have the main cutoff, sometimes you got to even open other faucets around the house because water's going to still find
water
its
pressure
way.
there. Right.
But yeah, it's almost, there's really no excuse to not fix it because it's usually just a washer, or even if it's the entire little flange inside, it's really not that expensive, and it's something you could probably do yourself.
Even if it's to the point of just replacing the faucet itself.
Yeah.
For some bathrooms, it's probably cheaper and easier just to replace the entire faucet.
Yeah.
It's inconvenient, but I was reminded yesterday watching just how much water is being released constantly.
Yeah.
And that one tiny little drop, that one little stream, it's there. Now, the thing that you don't realize is that it's constantly keeping all of your pipes moist. It's not letting the normal drying out process continue because it's constantly putting water into that trap. That trap is constantly dripping over into the backside. And we are now in the warm part of the year.
Yeah.
We can grow slime molds in the South like nobody's business.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And having had to clear out a lot of drip lines.
Yeah.
How fast, and I mean, this stuff is like really evil Jell-O.
You know what else about
it builds up really fast.
You know what else there is about that? It's the most unusual thing, Allan. You could have a dripping faucet doing, like you said, every 60 seconds or every 30 seconds, it's a drop of water. Well, when you're trying to sleep at night, even if that sink is across the other side of the house, I guarantee there's going to be this little drip. You're going to hear it. It's going to find its way into your psyche, and it's like
that little drop
water torture.
My gosh, yes. So, here's the advice. Now, of course, yesterday I have to say I went on an odyssey to find this one part.
Yeah.
A massive shout out to a couple of my buddies that were like, no, you got to go over here to get that part. So,
there's a lot of things you can't get at the big box store. You have to go to a plumbing warehouse.
I went about 3 of them.
Yeah.
So, I finally found the part, and we finally got everything put back together, and we got everything all squared away, and it works perfect now. It doesn't drip. It doesn't leak. And again, right immediately, I was thinking, any number of friends' homes where I've looked at somebody and go, you really ought to get this,
right.
Go ahead and get this tightened up. So at this time of year, especially now that it's getting warm, I like to throw in, there's at least one additional problem down the line from a dripping sink, and that is blocked pipes.
Oh.
Because slime molds grow fast. So this is where I'm going to say.
I didn't think of that part of it, but now that you're mentioning it, that's a very good point. Yeah.
It's
You're
kind of odd, the dominoes.
monster. Yeah.
Right. The dominoes that happen, because if you accumulate enough slime molds, that's holding enough water. And it's then, Joe, if you've got old pipes, depending upon the part of town you're in, now you're attracting tree roots.
There you go.
Trying to get, this stuff is trying to get out of your house.
Yeah.
So One thing I'm going to toss in, you can go to any big box store, any hardware store, and I'm not advocating the harsh chemicals. I'm advocating the enzyme-based cleansers.
Oh, yeah. That's the daily, like we said, that's like the daily vitamin for your
right.
pipes.
You can get them in like little sticks, and you can just drop one in each sink, and it will fall down into the trap. It won't obstruct your water flow or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the enzymes released in that help kill the slime molds and stuff down the line. So this little bit of action may help keep somebody from having a backed up shower or toilet because you got stuff growing in the lines because you're not letting the water ever completely go away.
Oh, yeah. Hey, can I share an anecdote, Allan?
Absolutely.
So basically, this wasn't my sink problem, because usually if there's a problem with my sink, I'm pretty quick to address it. So full disclosure, sometimes when my bathtub is leaking, I don't jump on it immediately, even though I probably should. But whatever. I
the
get it
bathtub
fixed.
is a little bit more of a pain.
However, so we don't have a main cutoff line. I have to go to the street to cut that off. Well, when we first moved into this house, I would say every 6 months, the hot water side of the bathtub started dripping. And basically, so then I would get out, I would change the rubber washer, fix it, and it would be good. And then 6 months later, well, after 3 times, I started looking into something. I'm like, okay, well, why is it just the hot water? Why is it wearing out so quick? Well, I noticed when I would take the old washer out that there was a little gash in it. And then I started, instead of just looking at the washer, I took the whole sleeve out of there, and I noticed that there was this little frayed edge on the metal, because this thing it might have even been the original faucet on there. So I said, okay, well, wait a minute. That thing's cutting this washer and wearing it out quickly. And so I replaced the flange. I had to go to one of those specialty hardware's plumbing stores, Allan, because this was a real unique part. It was the old one, and it was like $15. Once I replaced that, suddenly it was every maybe 4 or 5 years that I was dealing with a leak. So that was a big lifestyle improvement, just taking that extra step and fixing it. And I think it's probably true with the kitchen, with faucets in your sink as well. So,
and this is one of the times where I'm going to advocate, if you're not all that handy and it is your bath.
Yeah.
I got news for you. Just in water and aggravation alone, it's probably worth a call to a plumber.
Yeah, because every time you go in the bathroom, you're I got to fix that drip.
This
it's
thing
annoying.
Especially if it's leaking hot water.
Right.
Because now you're also paying to heat that water.
Yeah.
That is going down the drain, which is growing slime molds, which is going to create a blockage. There's a whole series of dominoes here that you want to go ahead and just, I believe what was the old expression, nip it in the bud.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Allan, I liked our discussion today. I think we did well. And, folks, there's really no reason to turn off the radio. Stay tuned all day, especially Saturdays are a lot of fun. Coming up at 10, Allan, we got our buddies Lynn Neal and Rick Taylor with the Real Deal Racing Report. At 11, we got Motor Mouths coming on with Ditch and Bud. It's always curious what they're going to talk about.
I love listening to those guys talk about cars.
And then at noon, Allan, you and I will be back with our buddy Brandon Olmsted for Geek Tank Radio.
Yes, we will.
And folks, just stand by for a lot of spoilers about Doctor Strange and our unvarnished thoughts about what we really thought of that movie.
Okay.
I have strong opinions. But anyway, it's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.